Hello, everybody. Happy Friday Eve. I am Sybil Wilkes. This is What You Need to Know, what you need to know every Monday through Thursday evening or afternoon, wherever you are. And it is an opportunity for us to come together with the newsmakers and shakers and funny people to talk about not only our What You Need to Know newsletter, which we have Monday through Friday. We provide news content for you Monday through Friday morning. It's in your email box. And if you'd like to subscribe to our newsletter, we would really appreciate that. And the best part is, at this holiday giving time, it's absolutely free. And so you can give your folks a subscription to What You Need to Know newsletter, and these stories will be in your email box every Monday through Friday morning. Please go to SybilWilkes.com, Sybil like the crazy girl, Wilkes like John Wilkes Booth, and we just lost our crazy person.
Uh-oh, he's back. He's back.
It's something about these dudes. I swear, if it's not Tom Joyner, it's George Wallace. The other day, we had Tom Joyner on as we were raising money for HBCUs. And people from the show came on, our old radio show, and Tom just started saying, "So Jackie Reed, what about The Undoing? And I got to talk to you about The Crown." And we're like, "Hello, we're trying to help the young folks here." But at any rate, with that wonderful leave taking and returning, let us say hello to George Wallace.
And good morning, everybody. I looked down and I don't have on the right shirt. So I'm supposed to have on this color shirt. So that's why I want to wait for a second. I'll wait for a second. I got to have on the right colors. I got to match my Christmas tree. You see my Christmas tree in the back?
You're a special one. You're a special one. Okay.
I'm a little off, but I got to wear the right colors.
Okay, what are you in California? Are you a blood or a crip or what? What? I don't understand. What is that?
No, this is fuchsia. I'm in the ATL. You know where I am. I'm in the ATL. Yeah.
And you want to match your Christmas tree. Okay.
You know where I am. Look at this. And I'm across the street from Lennox Mall. You know where I
am. Okay, all right. So now that we know where you are, we'll give you a second to adjust yourself, and we will make our other introduction. George, you could have slowed it down. You know what? I hope you're not as fast doing everything in your life as you just were right there. So, yes, you are. Black at you. Let us have a warm return welcome to our friend, President of the National Bar Association, Attorney P.K. Hoffler. Hello, Madam President. How are you?
Hello, Sybil. Hello, George. I love being here. I love you all. Thank you for having me back. I'm doing fine. Had a safe Thanksgiving. Safe Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Safe Thanksgiving. I mean, that's the name of the game. And I'm just delighted to be here tonight to talk about something that is near and dear to my heart, and to have with us Attorney Gerald Griggs. Now, he's a bad boy.
He's bad.
Bad boy. Now, he's not called the justice fighter for no reason.
Right.
I mean, so I'm just delighted to be here, Sybil, again, to talk to you about so many issues, and George, so many issues that really impact our community, and this litigation, this lawsuit that was filed yesterday.
Hello to the justice fighter. How are you, Attorney Griggs?
I'm doing great. It's great to be with you guys and to share some of the important news that's happening here in Georgia and how we are going to fight for people's rights. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, we are trying to stay on top of this Georgia story, but it changes every day. Every day in terms of the re-election, the runoff election, as well as Monday coming up as the deadline for the registration. Talking about your Secretary of State and all of the things going on there between him and the White House and others and all of these crazy threats of violence and things like that. That was our number one story on the newsletter today. And with Gabriel Sterling coming out and telling the president, turn it down, to cut out the violence. And so just want to give you an idea, Attorney Griggs, that we are on this, and we have talked about, I would say without fail, every day have a story in about this important runoff election on January 5th, and giving the information. But you all are bringing us some brand new information regarding a lawsuit that has been filed. And this is in regards to the runoff election, as well as people who can and cannot vote, and why not. And so let's start with you, President Hoffler. What do you say?
Well, let me just set the table for the justice fighter to come in.
Okay.
Food in. He might have some candied yams. He might have some leftover turkey. He might have some chicken. He might have some ham. But he's going to come in and put it and serve the meal. So, as we know, and this is a matter of public record, almost 200,000 Georgians have been purged illegally, improperly from the voting polls. So that's something that we know has happened, and we submit that it's illegal. We submit that it's improper, and we have evidence of it. So this litigation, and you know, it's one thing when you have a lawsuit, but when you have the lead local counsel right here sitting with you, I just joined the litigation, but Gerald Griggs is the lead local counsel on this case. So this litigation against the Secretary of State is on behalf of three plaintiffs. Rainbow Push Coalition, and you know, I'm chair of the board of Rainbow Push Coalition.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Transformative Justice Coalition, that's Barbara Arnwine. She's the CEO and founder of that, who's been on your show too. And Black Voters Matter, that's Latasha Brown.
Yeah.
I believe you all have been, talked to her and everything.
Sure.
He's been on
Those
here.
are the plaintiffs in this case. And they are bringing this case on behalf of, really, in essence, the 197,000 plus voters, people who have been purged in Georgia. Voter suppression is alive and well, and the purging of people's names is a classic voter suppression tactic. So there's nothing new to it. What's new and what's unique is that there's a runoff election that ends on January 5th. Not begins, but ends. And voter registration ends. You have to be registered to vote in Georgia by December 7th. Today's the 3rd, so in 4 days.
Yeah. So
this complaint is so important because for those people who have been purged and may not even know that they're purged, we're asking for them to be reinstated by the Secretary of State. So against that backdrop, I thought, Gerald, you could take it to the bridge and bring it on home.
Take it to the bridge. Take it to the bridge.
You know, we've heard a lot in the news, local and national news, about voter fraud. And let's be real clear. The Secretary of State has indicated that there has been no irregularities in voting. But we want to push back on that. There have been systemic purges in Georgia since the decision of Shelby v. Holder, which gutted the Voting Rights Act. And so it was a pleasure to join this litigation to try to place back on the rolls over almost 200,000 Georgia voters. And again, this is a bipartisan issue. This is nonpartisan. We just want people to have access to the franchise. So I was approached by Greg Pallas with Pallas Investigative Fund, as well as Black Voters Matter with Latasha Brown and Cliff Albright, and of course, Rainbow Push with the illustrious Reverend Jackson and Transformative Justice with Barbara Arnwine to sign on as local counsel for this. And we filed a lawsuit yesterday, and we have an illustrious legal team, and we'll be adding more to the legal team. But our overall focus is to make sure that we have free and fair elections and that individuals have access to the franchise. That's why we filed a lawsuit. We're hoping to expedite this lawsuit so that we can get the individuals back on the rolls and we can make sure that they are ready ahead of the Georgia runoffs. Because many times in Georgia elections, the margins were so very slim.
Right.
You know, in this last election, the president-elect won by 1,200 votes, 12,000 votes.
12,000.
And here you have a situation where almost 200,000 voters have been removed through several methods, whether that was the lack of them alleging that they returned a registration card. They mail out the registration cards, and if you don't return it back, then they purge you. Or if you don't vote in 2 consecutive elections, they purge you. But we, through our expert, have found that almost a 61% error, almost 61%
Ooh.
were removed erroneously. So we want to bring this evidence forward. That's why we filed the lawsuit. That's why we have the witnesses and the evidence. And unlike several allegations that have been made of voter fraud, we have the facts and the evidence, and we believe there was a violation of the National Voter Registration Act. So we feel like we're on sound legal footing in this case.
Now, let me ask you this.
So can I say something right quick about what makes this even more significant is that this litigation is being led by National Bar Association lawyers. You know, I got to throw that up in there. Friends is an MBA lawyer. I just joined the litigation. Frankly, I joined because of the power and how stellar this young man is. He is a stellar lawyer. So I went from, again, I'm chair of the board of Rainbow Push, but I'm a trial lawyer first and foremost. In Georgia, this is my backyard. And there are others, Gerald, I'm just dying. You know, I'm dying to tell everybody.
Let's go ahead. Let's just make it.
Okay, all right. There is only one civil rights trial lawyer icon left on this planet who can say he represented Rosa Parks, Dr. King, and the plaintiffs in the Tuskegee syphilis case. And that is the one and only Fred Gray, a past president, by the way, of the National Bar Association.
Yes.
I know you just hearing this. That's why in the press release that went out today, its caption was National Bar Association lawyers lead the representation of the Georgia plaintiffs in the lawsuit against the illegal purging of voter registrations. But Fred Gray has agreed to join the team. Now, I just I don't know if people understand the significance of that.
Right. I get chills.
I mean, he is the dean of civil rights lawyers. We're talking about Dr. King's lawyer. We're talking about Claudette Colvin's lawyer. We're talking about Rosa Parks' lawyer. This is the man who set the movement forward through his powers, of course, with the help of other great lawyers, like Donald Lee Hollowell and of course Thurgood Marshall and C.B. King. But this man is a living legend. It's an honor to even be remotely associated with him. So we're doing this because it's important for the nation to understand that when Black rights are under attack, Black lawyers stand up and fight back.
Amen.
And so can I just say, you heard it here first on your show.
Yes.
Because we felt it was important. If we're going to talk about something, let's talk about it with Sybil Wilkes.
Thank you. I'm honored by that. And you know, Fred Gray came up in my research for a story we're doing tomorrow, which is Saturday being the 65th anniversary of the boycott beginning against Montgomery, Alabama bus systems. And so
I got something for y'all.
Okay, George. See, it's something about these guys.
I think he has a token from the bus to get on the bus. That's what he has.
but to have Fred Gray in the conversation and there it is.
There it is.
That's it.
Oops, there it is.
That is it. Oh my God, Bus Ride Justice.
And if you haven't read this book, I would strongly recommend ordering it. It's on Amazon. Bus Ride to Justice: The Life and Work of Fred D. Gray. It lays out the civil rights movement, explicitly. And of course, yesterday was the 65th anniversary of Rosa refusing to get up from the bus. And then, of course, they started the bus boycott. It's all laid out right here. So that's why it's so important that today, we were able to announce a partnership. And I'm just humbled and honored.
I understand.
And so again, Sybil, you're hearing it first. I promise you so much. We officially filed this notice, which we'll take care of tomorrow. But I just felt it was only fitting to announce it through you because for the efforts that the National Bar is undertaking, Sybil, as you know, you are our media person, our spokesperson on so many issues, and we wanted it to be here through you that much of what's happening in Georgia and what we're doing, in Georgia to protect the right to vote of Georgia citizens. Like Gerald said, this is nonpartisan, but quite frankly, everybody, what are people afraid of? You should want everyone to be able to vote. What's the big deal?
Exactly.
This is not. There could be a whole bunch of people from different parties that are in that 197,000. But we think everybody should have the right to vote.
Everybody.
Absolutely. But time is of the essence, and Attorney Griggs and Hoffler. So if we're talking about this suit being filed and the deadline for registration is Monday, December 7th, how expedited can this be?
Well, we have a hearing Thursday. So we plan on expediting this as rapidly as we can to make sure the rights of Georgians to have access to the franchise are protected. And again, as Attorney Hoffler just stated, this is about all Georgians, regardless of party or class or race, to have access to the franchise. We need to have free and fair elections. And so, when I was listening to Mr. Sterling and Secretary of State Raffensperger talk about the need for free and fair elections, I think it's important to also have free access to the franchise and not be limited. And so that's one of the reasons why we want to make sure we protect that right. And I can think of no three better organizations to represent.
Absolutely. Bringing these groups together is very important, and for people who are just joining us, want you to understand that the plaintiffs are the Black Voters Matters Fund, the Transformative Justice Coalition, and the Rainbow Push Coalition, and respectively filing this complaint for injunctive relief to address what has been repeatedly brought to the attention of the Secretary of State as the wrongful cancellation of the registrations of almost 200,000 Georgians based on the baseless claim that these voters had moved. And so one of the things that came to mind is we had, it was a TikTok video that a white woman who registers people, and she said in one day she had 11 voters purged, and 10 of them were Black women. Are we seeing that as the majority of the people? And I understand that we're talking, a multi-partisan judgment here, but are we talking primarily Black people affected by this?
I mean, we have an expert who will be able to break that down, but we are seeing disproportionately African Americans affected by this. But again, it's a nonpartisan issue. It's a multiracial issue that we want to make sure everybody has access to the franchise. But again, I think that it's important that there's free and fair access to the process, and we need to open it up. And I think that's why one of the reasons why it's important to have, the dean of civil rights lawyers who are doing this work, who understands, what poll taxes and what literacy tests look like. And we're in the new era of regressive and repressive attempts to limit the franchise with what they call cleansing of the rolls, what we call it oppression.
Yes, you talk about cleansing, that's reminiscent of something else.
Exactly.
But I have to tell you, in the 90s, now I'm going to really start to have to admit to the age I am versus the name.
Which is 37. So
okay, so right. So I was barely around the 90s, but let's just say hypothetically in the 90s, late 80s and early 90s, I did have the pleasure of participating in the first, free and fair democratic elections in 2 African countries, in the Gabonese Republic and in Guinea-Conakry, the French-speaking. And we were because the U.S. had historically been perceived as the experts when it came to democracy and free and fair elections. Many countries, when they were doing their first round of free and fair democratic elections, turned to the U.S. for our expertise. And so in both instances, those countries were clients, and I was working on them. So we brought experts together, and we went to the countries and we helped them to set up their systems. There was greater transparency in those elections. Those elections were freer and fairer than anything I've seen to date in Georgia. I stood in line for over 5 hours. I don't know about you, Gerald, but over 5 hours to vote in the primaries because the brand new voting machines weren't working. There were 24, Sybil's heard this, and George, you've heard this, there were 24, as in the number before 25, ballots in the polling place for hundreds of people that were in line. And like I said, the brand new machines that the taxpayers spent money buying, by the way, were not working, and we had to wait for hours for the engineer to come and actually just basically turn them on, because the volunteers were not trained on the system in certain precincts, not everywhere, certain precincts. So I say all this to say that when I look at this from a global perspective, we've got to do better. And this is a nonpartisan issue. It shouldn't be that a nonpartisan issue disproportionately impacts Black and brown people. I don't understand that. Because if there's one set of rules applied across the board, it shouldn't disproportionately impact one group or another, some and not others. So, litigation, the one thing that I've always said in our system of justice, that there's really only one group, even though people can go pro se, that can bring a claim, and that's lawyers. That can go into court and litigate, even though they're people that you can certainly exercise your rights even if you don't have a lawyer. But for something complex like this, it really does require lawyers. And so we just felt in assembling the team, we needed the best, the icons, those who have been there, done that, fought, because that is out of respect for the voters of Georgia. Right. They deserve the best.
Deserve that.
We're not trying to do what had happened was ticky-tacky. No, they deserve the best. And that's what's being assembled. I'm just beaming with pride, though, that the National Bar Association is leading the legal team. That's all. And by the way, our legal team does look like America. So we're putting this together. Why? Because the issue in Georgia is an American issue. But it's led by the National Bar Association lawyers. That's.
So tell me this, and this sounds like I'm fangirling, but what's it like to be in the room with a man like Fred Gray and all of that history, all of that brilliance and proficiency, and being a part of history?
Well, I can speak to that because I've spent time with him just as a president of the NBA. And in this litigation, he's about to join to make an appearance in the next day or so. And so we will get a sense of his mastery on this issue. But I can tell you, he's just phenomenal. He's humble. He's just everything that he's a giant amongst giants. He's a titan amongst titans.
Right.
He is the personification of what we should be as trial lawyers, representing our clients in the appropriate way. And he just is, we honored him at the National Bar Association about 3 or 4 months ago as a living legend. It was so important for us. You want to honor people when they're alive. Everybody has the tradition of when people die, but did you tell them that when they were alive? Well, in the case of this living legend, Fred Gray, there are books written about him. We know that. But there's nothing like your peers, the organization. He was president of the National Bar, I think it was in 1985. So there's nothing like your law family who's been with you through thick and thin saying, you are our living legend. You are, yes, a treasure of the country, but you're our living legend. And it was so magnificent. So for this litigation, and Gerald, I'm just going to go out there and say it. We want all the young lawyers to see this, to watch this, to observe this, to learn from this, to understand what excellence is. And so, because we're not playing. We're not playing. And nobody needs to be playing in this, because what's at stake is something so fundamental that so many people died to allow us to have, which is that right to vote. And I go back to that March 2nd meeting I had in Congressman John Lewis's office with Reverend Jesse Jackson. That's why this all is fitting together. We didn't even plan it.
Right.
Where I was asking for their advice on my bar year. I was going to be sworn in as president of the NBA on voting rights, because we knew we had an election year, and on civil rights, human rights. And this is what they said, and I'm just saying this again for your listeners. They said, look, CK, we marched. Many of our colleagues died. We were beaten. We were shamed so that you and all of us could have the right to vote. And so we saw the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We saw the dismantling of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 by the Shelby County versus Holder decision, the majority opinion. But we saw one of the best dissenting opinions that I've ever read from the Supreme Court. Let me take that back. Justice Thurgood Marshall rocked every time he had a dissenting opinion. But Justice Ruth Ginsburg, in her crushing dissenting opinion, explained painfully why that majority opinion was going to dismantle the protections that we have in this country against discrimination at the polls. The very things that we're living right now, seeing, experiencing, and witnessing is because of the dismantling of the Voting Rights Act, because of that Shelby County versus Holder decision. And that's why we need to have a new Voting Rights Act passed, and that is why this election is critically important.
Okay, not to change the subject, but we're talking about Georgia. Now, we had polls on the presidential. How are the polls doing with our senators in Georgia? I don't hear anything about that. How are we doing in Georgia?
Well, I'm hearing that it's too close to call right now in both races. And I think that just underscores what CK was talking about. And, many people don't know this about me, but one of my mentors was the late Congressman John Lewis. He'd been to 7 of our marches, and he always said the same thing. The same thing was that the most powerful nonviolent weapon that we have is the vote. And so in a race that's going to be this close, and again, this is nonpartisan, but we want to make sure that individuals have the ability to exercise their choice to make the right choice, and vote for individuals who will pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and re-empower the Voting Rights Act. So I just think that we're at a pivotal moment in history. We're at the merging of two movements: the civil rights movement and the social justice movement. What I tell people is the reason why I vote is not only to honor John Lewis and C.T. Vivian, who were my direct mentors in this movement, but also to pass the torch to my daughter to have the same rights and more than I had. Because I have to be honest with you, I'm the first person in my family to be born with all of my rights. Think about it. 64 and 65, you had the passage of the Civil Rights Act, which gave Black people a majority of their constitutional rights. I was born in 1978, which means my parents didn't have all their rights. So I think it's important at this juncture with the Black Lives Matter movement and the social justice movement. We're seeing all these marches and all these protests. I got a chance to march on the Edmund Pettus Bridge the last time Representative Lewis crossed it. And as I stood at the pinnacle of the bridge, looking down and saw the Alabama state troopers. Now, of course, they were security at this point. They weren't there for him. But to then look over the bridge and realize there's only 2 ways off this bridge. Either one is through the Alabama state troopers, or 2 is in the water.
In the water.
That courage from him and others to risk their very lives for the rights that we have now is important for me as an attorney and the young attorneys that we want to inspire with this action to realize that it's on us to protect these most fundamental of rights, and we have to use the education and the will that has been gifted to us by our ancestors to be our ancestors' wildest dreams.
That's right. Absolutely. George, as we get back to this conversation about this lawsuit that's being filed, my friend Michael Stallworth says that the new Survey USA poll has given a 7% lead, 7 percentage points. Reverend Warnock is at 52%, and Kelly Loeffler is at 45%. Also, John Ossoff is leading David Perdue at 50 to 48%. So whether you believe the polls or not,
we gotta go. We gotta go.
Because we know what the polls looked like before the election and how things turned around there. So, but that is, he just keeps reminding us the influence and the very, very great importance of the rural white voters in Georgia as well. That's what Michael is telling us, and absolutely. Let me ask you this, because we have part 2. I'm sorry. Shante Brown it says that Clayton County could give their flowers and vote for Mr. John Lewis and make him proud. Absolutely. That was the county.
This
Well,
is the county that had 80,000 blacks that did
that's,
not vote, right?
There's that.
that's right. That's correct. And
That's
There's that.
why.
that's the answer right there. That's one answer right there. 80,000. We need to get these people out.
Yes.
So
Absolutely.
because we are nonpartisan, you don't have to be nonpartisan, but we have to be nonpartisan because I run, a National Bar Association. We have a nonpartisan effort and whatnot. I can't tell people how to vote.
But I can.
I can't tell people how to vote.
And I'm going to help everybody. You know what I'm going to do on January 25, on January 5th? I'm going to piggyback people. Everybody weighs less than 185 pounds can get on my back, and I'll haul your ass down to the voting poll. How about that? Get on my back.
And the only reason why I say that is because, a lot of the organizations, actually all the organizations involved in this, these are nonpartisan efforts.
Yeah.
And they have 501c3 status and the like. So it's really, really important. People don't really get that. It really is about people voting, having the right to vote, being able to vote without intimidation. Why should people have to fear that somebody, a group is going to stick a gun in their face and terrorize them if they vote?
Yeah.
In today's environment, that's crazy.
So-
That is classic voter suppression, being purged. How do you go purge someone? I'm jumping into something. So that's what this litigation is about. And, because of the age thing that one might be a little sensitive about, when Gerald said he's the only one in his family to have been born with all his rights, voting rights and everything, that would mean if you were born before 1965, hypothetically, which could be hypothetically me, hypothetically. He makes an excellent point. He makes an excellent point. And so we can't regress, even though it's been eroded. We can't regress. When I look at, we talked earlier about, I have two sons that are teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
That should make me a little younger, but anyway, that are teenagers. And for me, it is important. My oldest one voted for the first time in this election. It is important to me
Yes.
to be able to look at them in the eye and say, Mommy did something to make a difference. She tried. That's so important. You can't talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. You got to do it. And that is more important to me than a whole lot of stuff. And as president of the National Bar Association, all those young lawyers, they are lined up.
Yeah.
It's just sort of like a salute. We call our young lawyers, they're like, how many of us do you want? So we want them to be there to participate in this process. See, at the end of the day, you have to feel like you fought for something or yourself, for anything.
That's right.
So having a titan, a giant who we can emulate, like Fred Gray, who's alive, who's in our organization, who's been our leader, who continues to be our leader, being a part of this legal team where we're crossing generations. It's a cross-generational legal team that looks like the rainbow also, representing the iconic Jesse Lewis Jackson, his organizations, the mother of the election protection movement, Barbara Arnwine, Latasha Brown, Black Voters Matter. That is historic. And Greg Palast, let's talk about Greg Palast, that investigative reporter who uncovered a lot of this fraud. Well, okay, let me take that back. It's not fraud. Who uncovered a lot of these issues.
In questionable matters, yes.
And the purging of the polls. So of the voters from the polls. So, it's very important for us to look at historically what this means, what it could mean for this election. And the timing of it. This litigation was filed at a certain time because there were certain deadlines and time periods that had to pass before it could be filed. We don't need high tech. The bottom line is, for the listeners, just know that this is really important. All eyes are on Georgia. All eyes need to be on the lawyers that are pushing this and they're fighting, and that are unrelenting and determined, because we're fighting in the courts. And all we need is the blessing of looking at the evidence. And my view of the world is this, because I'm a trial lawyer. Okay, we're going to present the evidence. We're going to present the evidence. If for some reason we fall short or the evidence isn't there, the numbers are whatever, it's not there, something, if that happens, then let the chips fall where they may. But if the evidence and if our expert is right, which we believe he is, then that's a real problem, and there are disenfranchised voters in Georgia that need to be reestablished. They need to be put back so they can vote. So it doesn't matter for purposes of this litigation that the hearing happens after the deadline for people to, because the deadline for people to register is on the 7th, our hearing is on the 10th. Because these Secretary of State and this judge can order whatever is appropriate in the interest of justice. Because after all, it wasn't the judge that purged these people.
Right.
It was the Secretary of State's office. And we would not, because of some procedural issues, have brought some of these claims sooner. So I say all that to say that this is a fight like any litigation. Some people say there are two sides to every story. I learned that from Willie Gary, who was arguing. I practiced with him for 15 years. And when we would go into these big trials, Willie would say, he'd look at the jury and say, there are two sides, like he was going to say something real profound.
Right.
And that look like I'm about to just lay it on you. And he would say, there are two sides to every pancake. Got a pancake, you flip it over, there's another side.
A new pancake.
Just think about how simple that is, but how brutal it is.
Yeah.
Of course, that's what happens when you're
That's
brilliant.
really good.
So I this is a proud moment, but I have to say this to George, and I have to say this to Sybil, and Gerald knows this. This is very serious. When I look at, so many things that we can do in our lifetime and decisions that we make, how we came together in this litigation is really in and of itself something that only God could put together.
That's right.
Because it really kind of happened, right, Gerald? Really, in the 11th hour.
Yeah. It sounds providential.
And that Fred Gray would say, yes, today, based on a phone call that I placed to him. The extraordinary Fred Gray, that is the stars aligning for a fight.
Yeah.
We don't know what's going to happen with the fight, but the fight. To have the justice fighter, Gerald Griggs, to be, I say, our leader in this. My view of the world is, you may think you have more experience than some, but when you've got, because I'm hypothetically older than you, Gerald, hypothetically, I'm older than you. But when you've got the
Well, hypothetically, you're older than everybody, but go ahead, hypothetically.
Oh, wait a minute. No, you can't have it and everything. No, I know. I just said Gerald Griggs. So I said Gerald. I said nothing about Sybil or George.
Sybil.
But my point is to have, the stellar talent and young person who's proven in our community, we must recognize and acknowledge that.
Right.
And that's how we roll at the NBA. We give credit where credit is due. We build our teams star-studded because we're in it to win it. And we need to do everything to do that. And we're sending a message to our community as well, that we stand up. We always have, actually. But we stand up and we are the ones that fight. Along with others, we bring everybody to the table, by the way, because but we stand up. People need to look at that, admire that, appreciate that, and know that that's where we are.
That's right.
CK and Gerald.
You were talking about the whole Shelby versus Holder case, which gutted the Voting Rights Act, right? And so what was that? 2013.
2013, and what it gutted was not the entire act, but the pre-clearance. Now that states just do whatever they want to do, like you will see, Florida and Georgia usually do a lot in the same things because Florida and Georgia are close by, but every state has a different way. And we saw this in the presidential elections. How in one state, this is what the rule was. In another state, it was this. In North Carolina, you had to have an exact match. Remember we talked about that? Now, who's determining if you have an exact match of signature? People looking up, putting on glasses. I don't know. But there's margins. It's just every state is different. And all of these rules and regulations, like in Georgia, this rule, George, I know you know about this one, where one of the rules that the Secretary of State announced recently over the past week or so is, if you are a new registered voter, if you don't have a vehicle registered in Georgia, your vote can be challenged.
Right.
Are you serious? Are you serious?
George?
It happened.
Okay, all right. Well,
It did happen.
that to me is, in my humble impression, a form of voter suppression. This litigation doesn't deal with that. I don't know if there's a lawsuit, but the point that I'm making is, so imagine if you fall into that category, like George, like you do. So now your vote can be challenged. You got to go and prove that who you are. By that time, we're gonna have a winner or a loser, potentially. They need to let you know. So that's why we're telling people, the election protection effort that the National Bar has and others, vote early. Early voting begins December 14th. Vote early, because if there's a problem, you want to know there's a problem. Because if you wait till to January 5th, it's too late. Check your voting status now. This is not the time. And you know what's amazing and magnificent is, during the presidential elections, people did that. They voted early. We were stellar throughout the nation. All of the efforts of all the organizations, the election protection groups that were saying that, people listened and did it. And so we know it can be done, but this purging thing, that's very serious. And 190, it's not, if it were two people, it would be serious, because not a single person should be left behind. Justice for one is justice for all. 197,000 people?
Crazy. Let me ask you a question, CK and Gerald and Sybil. Let's say we're blessed to get these two new senators in. Can we pass a law that says everybody votes and make it just that simple? If you're an American, you vote. No suppression, you vote. Everybody should vote.
So you're not talking about the way that we vote, but just giving everyone the right to vote at 18?
What he's talking about is like what the Voting Rights Act was supposed to be.
The
Voting Rights Act of 1965, that's what it was supposed to be.
Yeah.
And there were all types of things in it that, because remember, we have what? The U.S. Supreme Court. And the way that it was dismantled was through a case that went to the U.S. Supreme Court. So what people need to understand, why there was such a fight and a lot of focus and consternation and concern about what's happening in the U.S. Supreme Court, is because when a law is challenged in any jurisdiction, the U.S. Supreme, and it goes up, it's got to go through a procedural process legally. And it goes up, just like the Shelby County versus Holder. The ultimate arbiter of that, if they accept the case, is the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, we had a discussion on your show, Sybil, about the composition of the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
Why there was such anxiety about who was going to fill Justice Ginsburg's slot. Right? So for those who are progressive thinking, they're looking at a U.S. Supreme Court that is overwhelmingly conservative, but there's always hope. You don't know what's going to happen with the new administration. And frankly, you don't know what's going to happen with these justices on the Supreme Court. Jokingly, it's not that I said this, but comedians such as George, I think Tom Joyner and others, radio personalities said, when Clarence Thomas there was like a whole joke about this, it just never happened, became the justice of the U.S. Supreme Court. Y'all were joking and said, look, he just did whatever to get on. Once he gets on, he gonna break out. Well,
I said it. Yes, I did.
I've been following you for a long time. I've been on this show about the time you busted me out in Las Vegas at your show. We're not gonna talk about that on this show.
Really?
The National Bar was meeting in Las Vegas, and a group of us came in a little bit late because we landed, and whatever, a group of us, 10, 15, and we had our tickets, and we were looking for our places and everything, and your show had started maybe 15, 20 minutes, and so we all came in and taken seats, and I was looking, I had a seat in the front looking for my seat, and my husband was there, and I was looking for him, and you singled me out, Mr. George, I ain't got no money, Wallace.
Well, I'm glad you came in late.
A whole narrative about all of us coming late to your show and everything. It was frankly hilarious, but yeah, I didn't want to bring that up.
Before we let you go, and I want to thank you all so much for your time, and I don't know how much this would cost me in legal fees, because I know you all are high priced and fancy schmancy lawyers. But I really appreciate your time in talking about this case. But George, you were also talking about Clayton County. And Sabrina says today she had a door knock from Unite Here campaigning for Warnock and Ossoff, and she lives in Clayton County. And she was glad to see them. And so that just indicates that they are out there and they are making that effort to get those 80,000
Well,
voters.
she was out there and her friends was out there, but we need 78,988 more people to go out there and vote.
Okay, your math's a little off, but okay. So here's how I want to close tonight, because in a little bit, our friend Latasha Brown, the co-founder of Black Voters Matter, is joining a woman you may have heard of by the name of Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
Yeah, Lil Birdie told me about that.
I'm gonna call into that too. Yes.
Okay. All right. So of course you are. So we know that every vote counts, and which, as we are here too, getting people to cast their ballots. And this virtual event is tonight.
Yes.
And through the Can't Stop, Won't Stop initiative, they're focused on reaching the Black voters. And so the event is called Own Your Vote. Georgia. Georgia on my mind. It's a virtual voting conversation held tonight. And so go to zoomwithoprah.com.
Yes.
I'm sorry, George, www.zoomwithoprah.com. And that starts at 8 o'clock Eastern. And so that's in just a few minutes.
Right. And that is great. I will be a spectator like everyone else, but that is something not to miss.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. And will you all stay with us and stay in touch with us and let us know how this is going Thursday with the presentation and all of that, because we really do want to make a difference, as you know, and be a part of history and getting people their votes, their right to vote back to them, and make a difference in this upcoming election, especially, and on to others. Yes, George, we are going to have an opportunity, if you all would like to stay with us, or if you would like to perhaps beg George for a free copy, and those aren't easy to come by, free, I mean. George has written a book. These are based upon his tweets, and it's called Bull Twit. And George, do you have a favorite or one tweet that you'd like to share with us?
I have so much bull twit to talk about in my life, you know. So and I got this book. It's a very expensive book, and I want you to buy this book. Go to georgewallace.net. That's all you got to do. One of my tweets is a shout out to my favorite coat factory, and mine is preferably Burlington. So listen to me. So I do stupid stuff like that. These are just online ramblings of George Wallace, you know. And because I was so poor, when I was poor, you know, we couldn't listen to, all we could listen to was the Pips. We never knew there was a glass at all. That's how poor we were, you know. We never knew, we never could see Mr. Sample. We just go, what's the show about? And son. So all of this stuff is in here. Shout out to the top 5 pans in the world, you know, like Pandemic.
Okay.
Pan American World Airline. Give me another pan. Peter Pan.
Okay.
All the pans in the world. And some of my replies are better than anything. And one of my replies was, how about Mugu Guy? So this book, I was voted top 25 funniest tweeters in the world by Rolling Stone magazine. So we put these ramblings together. And Joe, it's in here also. You just said a little birdie told you. Why is it always a little birdie? Why can't it be a plus-size bird? A little birdie gonna tell you only so much shit. A plus-size bird can give you the whole damn story. A little birdie told me. So this can be good under your tree. Bull Twit, and it was written. The foreword was written by my buddy Patton Oswalt. I got everybody's name on here. Natasha Leon and John. Just everybody. This is a good book to go. Matter of fact, you should buy 5 of these books. If you buy 5, they're only $19.95. But if you buy 5, it's going to be $120. I just charge extra for no reason.
Well, I will do that, and I will encourage our members to do that. Because let me just say something seriously, though. George Wallace, you are a living legend.
Yeah.
Always have been.
Thank you.
You have no idea how through humor you do social justice. So we thank you for that.
Thank you so much. I'm so blessed to have a job that are my passions. I wanted to be a comedian since 6 years old, and I'm still doing it, and I'm 56. Shut up! I'm 56. And I'm still doing what I love to do. All I do is I got a job. I just lie. I get to come on with you guys, with you lawyers, and do you guys have a slogan? Do you guys have a commercial on TV? Because everybody has a commercial. All lawyers, one call, that's all. Enough said, call in. And a red, need a check. Y'all don't have a. Well, I'm gonna have to get you a slogan. I'm gonna write a slogan for you. Okay. I'm gonna be your spokesperson.
Oh my. Someone did get on the chat today and say that George is a national treasure. You're absolutely right.
Oh, thank you, somebody.
And we agree. And I don't know how much you paid them, George, but that was really nice.
Well, I want to know who the hell is somebody. Why they got the name there? Why you didn't give their name?
Someone not paying.
We'll talk more about it next week, okay? More about it. We got so much to talk about.
May I thank you, Justice Fighter Gerald Griggs. Thank you so much. Please stay in touch with us and for all your good work. We appreciate you, and we look forward to having further conversations, additional conversations about you and what you're doing as well.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. Of course, as always, CK Hoffler, you are the absolute best. We adore you, Madam President, and appreciate you. And one more thing, how can people keep up with how this is moving through the courts, like on Thursday, and the judge's decision and all that?
And you know what we're going to do, Jill, we have to determine, because we just filed it, but I know that through the nationalbar.org, www.nationalbar.org, we'll post something. And then, Gerald, we can refine it a little bit more so that people can keep up. So www.nationalbar.org. And we'll have posted, the stuff that's in the public domain. And then we do tweets. We can do tweets on what's happened as well. So the people, and Sybil, how can they find out? Through you? Because Sybil is one of our media spokespersons for the National Bar Association. Okay. So all things, Sybil, that we feel are having an impact, you are one of the people in the media that we come to first.
Well, we will use us as the What You Need to Know newsletter and bring out all the information for the folks so that we can keep up with all the great work you're doing. And we appreciate you and all that you are doing for us on the What You Need to Know news staff as well, CK. Thank you so much. George Wallace, have a wonderful week. Yes.
Next week, our good friend, my good friend, your good friend, Joe Madison will be with us next Thursday.
The Black Eagle.
It's going to be awesome. So you guys hang in there next Thursday night, right here, okay?
Thank you, George.
I love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. Jill, I'm going to...
Love you too. Thank you so much.
God bless you.
Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful weekend. Please be safe. Wear your mask and all. You know the routine.
Where's my mask?
Have a good weekend. Bye.